But do you know that more than 80% of the luxury leather products, like handbags, purses, and shoes of Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Gucci, Coach, Prada, you name it, most of them are made in China?
The battlefield is TikTok. It is flooded with such factory videos. Chinese suppliers are reaching out to American customers directly.
All right, let's talk about something that's got the internet buzzing. No, scratch that, it's freaking out. Picture this. The world's most luxurious handbags, the ones that cost as much as a brand new car, were never handcrafted in Paris, like you were led to believe. Nope. Instead, these bags were stitched together in the unlikeliest of places, China. Yeah, you heard that right. Your $20,000 Hermès bag that you thought was born in a sunlit French workshop probably rolled off an assembly line in China, right alongside hundreds of knockoffs. And it gets even juicier. What if I told you that luxury fashion's glittering world is built on a foundation of secrets and deception? It's true. The truth came crashing down in the form of viral TikToks, factory leaks, and insider exposés. We're talking about brands like Hermes, Prada, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton, all of them tied up in the same dirty little secret: outsourcing. And I'm not talking about outsourcing just the little things. I'm talking about the heart of their products, the bags that have become symbols of status, wealth, and luxury. Take Hermes, for example. You know, the brand that's synonymous with exclusivity and craftsmanship. The Birkin bag, the Kelly bag, these are practically worshipped by celebrities and fashion elites. But what if I told you that these bags, the ones you see celebs like Kylie Jenner and Cardi B flaunting, are made thousands of miles away from the glamorous ateliers of Paris? Yeah, they're made in China. Let that sink in for a second. You're paying thousands of dollars for what you think is artisanal French craftsmanship, when in reality, that handcrafted bag was sewn together in a Chinese factory where it shares production lines with the fake versions flooding the market. Sounds insane, right? But trust me, the more you dig, the uglier this whole thing gets. So, how did we get here? Well, it all started with a scandal that's making headlines. Apparently, Hermes, the brand that claims its bags are a symbol of European luxury, has been outsourcing up to 80% of the production to China. 80%? You think those leather stitches were painstakingly sewn by a French artisan sipping on an espresso in Paris? Nope. Try a factory worker in Shandong, China, cutting, stitching, and assembling bags before sending them off to France for a finishing touch and a high-end price tag. You're probably thinking, that's impossible, but it's true, and I'm about to break it down for you. So, let's rewind a little. For decades, Hermes and other luxury brands have sold more than just bags. They've sold a fantasy. When you picture a Hermès Birkin, you imagine an artisan in a French workshop, carefully stitching leather under soft golden sunlight. You picture luxury, you picture craftsmanship, you picture perfection. But here's the thing. That was never the reality. The Birkin, the Kelly, those iconic bags that cost more than your rent, your car, or even your college tuition, they weren't made in Paris. They were made in places like Shandong, where labor is cheaper, and then shipped to France, where a clasp gets added and voila! A bag that gets slapped with the Made in France tag and a staggering price of $20,000. Let me say that again, $20,000. You might be wondering, if it's made in China, why are we paying so much for it? Great question. Well, you're not just paying for the bag. You're paying for the label, the logo, the fantasy they sell you with that little tag that says, Made in France. And that's the kicker. You're not buying craftsmanship. You're buying a marketing campaign dressed up as luxury. This whole thing exploded when Chinese factory workers, people who've been quietly sewing these luxury bags for years, finally had enough. They started sharing receipts, leaking videos, and showing off the process they followed to create these luxury items. And guess what? It turns out those factory workers weren't creating knockoffs. They were making the real deal. Viral TikToks showed stitching techniques, hardware processes, and leatherwork straight from those mystery factories. And the internet? They went wild. But of course, Hermes wasn't about to just let this blow over. Oh no. They scrambled to put out their own videos, flashing images of smiling French artisans working away in their authentic ateliers. But guess what? It was way too late. The receipts had already been leaked. The truth was out, and now Hermes and other brands are in full-on damage control mode. Their entire empire is on the line. I mean, this is the kind of scandal that doesn't just affect one brand. This is bigger than that. This could unravel the entire luxury fashion industry as we know it. This isn't just a case of, oops, we made a mistake. No, this is a betrayal. Hermes sold you an illusion, and it turns out that illusion wasn't just some harmless fantasy. It was a cash grab. So what did they do when they were caught red-handed? They didn't apologize. Oh no, they went straight into deflection mode. They pulled out the big guns, lawsuits. Hermes went to war, not just with the factories in China that had the audacity to leak the truth, but with anyone and everyone who dared to speak out. These lawsuits weren't just some small-time threats either. No, Hermes has taken it to the next level. They're accusing Chinese manufacturers of defamation, claiming that these factories had no right to expose the truth. They're calling it theft. They're saying these factories breached intellectual property, all in an attempt to cover their tracks and shut down the whistleblowers. But here's the plot twist. These factories weren't rogue operators. They weren't some shady knockoff creators. They were official partners. They were contracted by Hermes to make the bags. The factories weren't bootlegging fakes. They were manufacturing the real deal. And now, Hermes is acting like they've never heard of these factories. It's like they're trying to erase them from existence. It's almost laughable, but it's also wildly manipulative. And guess what? It's not just Hermes. Oh no, this isn't an isolated incident. This is happening across the entire luxury industry. Prada, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, they're all in on it. These brands have been playing the same game for years. They build 98% of a bag in China, ship it off to Europe for a little finishing touch, slap on a Made in Italy or Made in France tag, and voila, you've got yourself a $30,000 bag. Does that sound like craftsmanship to you? Of course not. That's called corporate manipulation. The only thing these companies are crafting is a story. And guess what? It's working. You've been sold the fantasy of European craftsmanship and the truth. It's uglier than you think. Now, here's where things get really interesting. You think the high-end brands are the ones who are reaping the rewards, right? Well, let's talk about the real cost of making these bags. This is where things get seriously shady. I want to introduce you to someone who's been blowing the lid off the luxury fashion world for years, Tanner Leatherstein. You might have seen his viral TikToks, where he literally slices open expensive designer bags on camera to show the truth inside. And let me tell you, his findings are jaw-dropping. See.
I have spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
When Tanner got his hands on a $38,000 Hermès Birkin, he didn't just stare at it in awe. Oh no, he cut it open. And what did he find? The cost to make that exclusive bag? A mere $600. That's right, a $600 bag being sold for $38,000. What's the difference? The logo, the label. That's where the real value comes in. Now, I know you're thinking, wait a second, how can that be? What about the leather? What about the craftsmanship? Here's the thing. The leather, high quality, yes. The stitching, not so much. But in the end, it's not the craftsmanship you're paying for. You're paying for the illusion. You're paying for the exclusivity. You're paying for that status. And the kicker? This isn't just a one-time thing. Tanner's gone on a spree, cutting open bags from brands like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and more. And guess what he found? Cheap secrets hiding inside. Low-quality stitching, faux golden materials that wouldn't last a year. And yet, these bags are selling for thousands of dollars. Because the brand is everything. It's not about the quality. It's about the perception. Now, let's talk about why this matters. You've been sold this luxe fantasy for years, but now the walls are coming down. Consumers are waking up. The resale market is tanking. People are realizing they've been paying insane prices for nothing more than a logo and a dream. The exclusive Birkin bag? The one you had to spend years waiting for? It's all a trick. It's all about making you feel like you're part of some special club. The truth is, those bags, those pieces of craftsmanship, are really just products of a corporate illusion. But what's worse, that illusion is starting to crack. The resale value of these bags is plummeting. Collectors are sweating, resellers are panicking, because if the exclusivity is fake, if the craftsmanship is questionable, then what's left to justify those insane price tags? Nothing. And here's where the drama gets even more intense. So now Hermes, Prada, Louis Vuitton, and others are trying to do everything they can to shut down the truth. lawsuits are flying, factories are being silenced. And all because these brands are trying to protect the one thing that makes them profitable, the illusion. They need you to believe that their bags are worth the price. They need you to believe that they're the gold standard of luxury. But the truth is out, and it's a lot darker than we ever imagined. What's left? Well, for one, those $30,000 bags? They've lost their luster. The truth has shattered the illusion. You're no longer just buying a bag. You're buying into a corporate game that's been manipulating you for years. So next time you see a $25,000 Birkin or a $10,000 Louis Vuitton bag, I want you to think long and hard about one thing. Are you buying craftsmanship, or are you just paying for a logo and a lie? And when you see that influencer flashing their bag on Instagram, remember this. Most of them didn't even buy it. Brands are sending out these bags as free PR. It's all part of the illusion. The reality? It's not nearly as glamorous as it seems. The truth is out there, and it's shattering the luxury world, one viral TikTok at a time.